morning. We are going to look at your last section of chapter 12 today, which is section 12.6. In this section, you looked at adding and subtracting rational expressions, which again, you should have already looked at your Algebra 1 video. If you have not yet done that, you want to go back, do your video from Mrs. Bloom, Mr. Moulton, or Mr. Levarchik, and then come back and get mine because I'm just going to review those concepts with you. So the important part in this lesson to remember is that when we add and subtract fractions, they have to have a common denominator. The nice part for you guys in Algebra 1 is that you are always going to have a common denominator. So if you remember, and this is from back in probably elementary school, late elementary or maybe middle school, a common denominator means they have to have the same denominator, which the denominator is the bottom. Okay, so the bottom of the fractions has to be the same in order for you to add or subtract. Then when you do add or subtract, that denominator stays the same the whole time. So we are only going to be changing in these the numerator or the top part as we create our answer, at least before we simplify. So if you look at this first one, we have two fractions here that are being added together. So important to pay attention to our sign that connects these. This is an addition problem. So when we add these, again, our denominator is going to stay the same. So when I add these, that denominator, the bottom, is going to stay 9x plus 2. I'm only concerned with combining the tops or the numerators. So really what this comes down to is looking for like terms. So if I look at the top, I have 4x in the left side fraction, and in the right side I have negative 3x. Those are like terms. So when I take 4x plus negative 3x, I get 1x. And then I have my other terms, which are both constant terms. So I have negative 9 and positive 1. So negative 9 plus 1 would give you negative 8. So x minus 8 over 9x plus 2 would be your solution or your sum because we added them together in this question. So let's look at this one. On this one, we are again looking at an addition situation. So this is an adding sign or an addition sign in the middle. So I am going to be adding the numerators and leaving the denominator the same. So I know that the bottom is going to stay 6x minus 10. And in the numerators, I'm looking for like terms. So I have negative 5x here. As I look over to the right side fraction, I see another term that has an x, so that would be a like term for it, 14x. So what is negative 5x plus 14x? That would be positive 9x. And then I have positive 4 and negative 19. So when I take 4 plus negative 19, I get negative 15. So when we got to this place on the last one, we were done. I circled the answer and we were done, and we didn't really talk too much about it. This is your answer. However, unlike the last one, this one can be simplified. So you do still have to be aware of the fact that a lot of these fractions are going to be able to be simplified. So as I look at this, I don't have any x squareds going on, so I'm not going to have to do the long kind of factoring, but I do need to look for common factors that can be taken out. So if we focus on the numerator first, do 9x and negative 15 share a common factor? Hopefully you're saying yes, they're both divisible by 3. And if I factor out that 3, 9x divided by 3 would give me 3x. And negative 15 divided by 3 would give me negative 5. So now as I move to the denominator, I'm going to attempt the same thing, to take out a common factor if there is one. So do 6x and 10 share a common factor? Yes, they're both divisible by 2. And if I divide out that 2 or factor out that 2, 6x divided by 2 is 3x. And negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So remember, when you're simplifying these rational expressions, anything that is the same on top and on bottom can cancel out. So hopefully you notice here that that means that I can cancel this 3x minus 5 with this 3x minus 5. So my solution, or my sum, in simplest form is just 3 over 2. All right, one more example. Okay, so what I want to make sure that you're catching here on this one, different than the last two that we did, is that this is a subtraction problem. So that's different. Now, if you remember way back to the beginning of this year, or even before that really, but I know we went over it in semester 1, subtracting can be changed into addition. It's just the same as plus a negative. So I'm going to change this into addition so that I can make it look like the last two that we just did and really make it so that you don't have to learn anything new here. But when I change this into an addition sign, I have to change the sign on every term in the numerator of the fraction that comes next. So this does not impact 9x minus 7 that came before the subtraction sign. But it is going to impact this negative 1x, so that's going to become positive 1x, and this negative 1, which is going to become positive 1. So you have to sign change every term in the top, the numerator, of the fraction that comes after the subtraction sign. But now we're going to be able to approach this the same way that we did the last two. So that denominator, again, is going to stay the same. We're going to keep that 4x minus 18. And now I'm looking for like terms in the numerators, or like terms on top. So I have 9x, and this, which is now a positive x, right? So I have 9x plus 1x. So that would give you 10x. And then I have a negative 7 and this 1 over here. So negative 7 plus 1 would give you negative 6. So this is your solution. But again, just like the last one, we need to check and make sure this is in simplest form. So do 10x and 6 share a common factor? Hopefully your answer is yes. They are both divisible by 2. And if you factor out that 2, 10x divided by 2 is 5x. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. And then we can go to the denominator. So in the denominator, we have 14x and 18. Do those share a common factor? Again, 14 and 18 are both divisible by 2. So 14x divided by 2 is 7x. And negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. So do you see anything that's common that can thus cancel or reduce away on top and bottom? Hopefully you notice these 2's. So that means your answer in simplest form would be 5x minus 3 over 7x minus 9. This is your solution. So as you go to the next page in your module, you are going to find a Canvas quiz asking you to complete 3 questions like this. Just like all of them before this, you can take that quiz up to 3 times and I will take your highest score. Make sure that you have paper and pencil. You do not want to be doing these in your head. You need to have paper and pencil out so that you can check your process and reduce your questions before you go trying to type answers in. Good luck. Let me know if you have questions. And if not, then I will be back tomorrow.